Have you ever felt overwhelmed by noise, not just sounds, but opinions, pressure, and expectations? Do you find yourself constantly reacting to life instead of living it on your terms? In a world that rewards loudness and constant motion, silence is a rebellion. But it's also a sanctuary. True strength often whispers, never shouts. If you're searching for clarity, control, and authentic influence, then you're in the right place. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe. This journey is about mastering the mind, embracing stillness, and becoming someone the world quietly respects and deeply feels, even without saying a word. 1. Embrace the power of silence. Silence is not empty, it's full of answers. In a world that constantly demands our attention, silence becomes an act of rebellion and revelation. It is in the quiet that your mind begins to untangle the mess, left behind by external noise and internal chatter. The absence of words, screens, and opinions reveals a kind of truth that cannot be found in the endless scroll or the crowded room. Silence isn't a void, it's a vessel. It holds space for your spirit to breathe and your intuition to speak. We often confuse silence with nothingness, but in reality, it is a reservoir of everything we've been too distracted to notice. From that reservoir comes insight, healing, and clarity. In moments of stillness, we meet our truest self, unfiltered, unmasked, and fully present. Silence is where wisdom grows, where decisions form from values rather than noise. This truth is as old as philosophy itself. The Stoics, Zen monks, mystics, and sages all pointed toward the same path. Retreat inward to find strength outward. When we allow silence to fill us, we begin to recognize how many of our words are driven by impulse, fear, or the desire to control. In silence, those false urges dissolve, leaving behind only what is essential. It is here we remember what we stand for. It is here that life becomes less about reacting and more about aligning. When you live from alignment rather than anxiety, your decisions carry weight, depth, and authenticity. Instead of rushing to fill every gap with sound or distraction, learn to sit with your thoughts. This space is sacred. It's where your mind stops reacting and starts creating. True creativity doesn't arise in chaos. It is born in silence, cultivated in solitude, and refined in stillness. But we fear silence because it forces us to face ourselves. No more pretending, no more hiding behind small talk, scrolling, or hustle. In silence, the masks fall away. We see our hopes, our fears, our regrets, and more importantly, our potential. That confrontation is uncomfortable, yes, but it is the birthplace of evolution. The more often you allow yourself to enter that stillness, the more resilient, insightful, and intentional you become. You stop drifting and start directing your life. When the world around you spins in chaos, silence becomes your fortress. It doesn't isolate, it empowers. Silence doesn't cut you off from the world, it returns you to yourself, so you can face the world with more power and presence. In silence, you gather your thoughts like armor. You process pain, purge fear, and prepare for action with clarity. The Stoics didn't run from the noise of life. They simply made sure they weren't consumed by it. Your silence is a form of inner sovereignty. It doesn't matter how loud the world becomes. If you've mastered your quiet, you remain unmoved. Silence is not absence, it is preparation. It is your strength drawn inward, waiting to be released at the right time, with precision and purpose. 2. Mastering self-control. Power isn't controlling others, it's mastering yourself. The need to dominate people or situations often comes from fear, not strength. True power lies in sovereignty over your own reactions. In a world obsessed with influence and authority, the Stoic knows that the real battlefield is internal. The one who can stay calm while everyone else is panicking is the one who holds the real advantage, the one who does not need to retaliate to feel significant, is the one who has transcended ego. Self-control is not repression, it's liberation. You are no longer a slave to your impulses or at the mercy of other people's chaos. Stoic wisdom teaches that while we can't control events, we can always choose our response. That's the battleground of emotional strength. Life is unpredictable. People disappoint us, plans collapse, storms come out of nowhere. But the one thing you own is your response. Every moment presents a choice, reaction or reflection. When you choose reflection, you choose power. You refuse to let circumstances mold your character. Instead, you mold your character in spite of circumstance. This mindset transforms adversity into training. Each hardship becomes an opportunity to sharpen your will, temper your patience, and deepen your perspective. When someone insults you, do you react with fire or stay anchored in dignity? When things don't go your way, do you panic or do you pause? That pause is everything. It is the space where self-mastery is born. It's easy to act from emotion in the heat of the moment, but that's when we usually betray our values. The insult says more about them than it does about you. Your response says everything about who you are. When you can meet provocation with poise and setbacks with stillness, you've moved beyond survival mode. You are now a creator of outcomes, not a reactor to them. Emotional discipline isn't coldness. It's a quiet fire that burns steady. In mastering yourself, you become untouchable by chaos. That doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop being ruled by feelings. It means you can experience anger without being controlled by it. You can grieve without falling apart. You can hold space for pain without letting it define you. This is the highest level of strength, emotional intelligence sharpened into self-possession, no longer swayed by every emotion or triggered by every slight. You walk through life grounded, centered, and unshakable. You don't need to fight to prove your power. You are the power. 3. Living fully in the present. The present moment is the only place power truly lives. The past is out of reach and the future is unknown, but right here, right now, is where your choices are made and your destiny is shaped. Every breath you take is a doorway into presence. But most of us miss it, chasing the ghosts of regret or the illusions of anticipation. We postpone peace, waiting for the perfect time, the right outcome, or the next milestone, forgetting that peace is always available now. There is no strength in time travel. There is only strength in presence. Many people are prisoners of yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears, but strength is found in the now. You cannot rewrite the past, nor can you predict the future with certainty. Obsessing over either is a misuse of your mental energy. The Stoics remind us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. When you anchor yourself in the present, you're not just surviving, you're living. You reclaim the clarity that stress had stolen from you. You become responsive rather than reactive. You move through life with intention, not inertia. This is how warriors live, not by avoiding uncertainty, but by facing it with focus. Your energy, focus, and attention belong here, not in imagined futures or faded memories. Whatever you're doing, do it fully. When you listen, truly listen. When you speak, speak with your whole being. When you rest, rest without guilt. This full engagement with the now is how you create excellence, not just in performance, but in living. Life doesn't happen in the past or the future. It unfolds moment by moment. And if you're not present for it, you miss it. Worse, you live in reaction to a story that isn't even being told anymore. Bring your power back to this moment. That's where it belongs. When you train your mind to be present, you experience life with clarity, make better decisions, and perform with excellence. A scattered mind makes scattered choices, but a present mind sees the truth clearly. You notice the nuance in conversations, the opportunities in adversity, the beauty in the mundane. Presence makes you powerful because it makes you aware. Most people sleepwalk through life. Presence wakes you up, and in that wakefulness, you become unstoppable, not because life is easy, but because you're truly here to meet it, whatever it brings. Silence sharpens presence. In quiet moments, the fog lifts, and you see what really matters. It's not about escaping life. It's about re-entering it with clear eyes and an open heart. Silence doesn't dull the senses. It enhances them. It tunes you into the rhythm of now. Every breath becomes a compass. Every moment becomes a teacher. Every action becomes sacred. You no longer rush to get through the day, you begin to live it. And when you live each moment fully, you realize you've had the power all along, not in what's next, but in what's now. 4. Building inner strength in solitude. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's a meeting with your essence. Solitude is often misunderstood in a world addicted to constant stimulation, distraction, and noise. Being alone is not a punishment, it's an invitation. An invitation to meet yourself in the rawest, most honest way possible. When you strip away the opinions, expectations, and voices of others, what you're left with is your core truth. Many people fear solitude because it removes the filters and masks we wear in social settings. But in truth, solitude is sacred. It is in these quiet spaces that you come face to face with your soul. Your essence, untainted by influence, untouched by ego, unshaped by society, is allowed to breathe and speak. You remember what you love, what you stand for, what you've ignored, and what you've lost touch with. Solitude isn't a void, it's a powerful reconnection with what's real. Too many run from being alone because silence forces you to face yourself. But within that silence lies truth, healing, and realignment. We've been conditioned to avoid silence at all costs. It's uncomfortable, even terrifying for some, because silence holds up a mirror. It reflects not only your strengths, but also your wounds, your regrets, your self-betrayals. But the avoidance of silence is the avoidance of healing. In solitude, there are no distractions to numb you. You can't scroll past your pain, drown it in noise, or outsource your worth. You must sit with it, and that's where the work begins. Healing can't happen in avoidance. Realignment doesn't come from busy schedules, it comes from brave stillness. When you allow yourself to be truly alone, without distraction, you begin to listen again. To your body, to your intuition, to your pain. These are not enemies. They are guides. Silence offers clarity. It tells you when you're off course, when you've neglected your needs, when you've lived for others and abandoned yourself. That kind of honesty is a gift, even if it stings. It's the first step toward wholeness. Use solitude as a mirror. Reflect on who you are and who you're becoming. This is where character is carved and purpose is reignited. Solitude isn't just rest, it's reflection. It's where you examine the arc of your life. Are your choices aligned with your values? Are your habits feeding your vision or starving it? Who are you becoming by the small daily decisions you make? These are questions that get lost in the chaos of external validation and constant comparison. But in solitude, you start seeing again. You reconnect with your inner compass. And that's where character is shaped, not in public applause, but in private choices. When no one is watching, who are you? Are you living by integrity or convenience? In solitude, you also reignite purpose. Sometimes we get so caught up in obligations that we forget why we started in the first place. But when you sit with yourself, you remember your why, You remember your dreams before the world told you to shrink them. That spark, that reconnection, is powerful enough to redirect your entire path. Internal strength is forged in those quiet hours when no one is watching. When you learn to love solitude, you stop fearing the world's opinion. The deepest kind of strength is not loud or flashy. It's quiet. It's the type of resilience born in moments when you hold yourself together, not because someone's watching, but because you've made a vow to yourself. When you can sit with your discomfort, face your fears, and stay grounded in solitude, you become unshakable. You stop needing external approval to validate your worth. You stop chasing applause. You stop fearing rejection. Why? Because you've tasted the peace that comes from self-trust. Solitude is the soil where this kind of strength grows. It teaches you that you don't need to perform for anyone. It reminds you that peace doesn't come from people liking you. It comes from liking yourself. And once you anchor yourself in that truth, no opinion, no trend, no rejection can uproot you. That's the strength the world can't give, and it can't take away. 5. Leading silently by example. The loudest leaders aren't always the strongest. Real influence is often unspoken. Leadership today is often confused with visibility, volume, and charisma. We are drawn to those who speak the most, post the most, and appear the most confident. But true leadership doesn't always need a stage. It doesn't scream for attention. Real influence comes quietly and steadily. It's the kind that radiates from someone who knows who they are, what they stand for, and lives it daily without needing to prove anything. These silent leaders shift the energy in a room without raising their voice. Their presence alone demands respect, not because they impose it, but because they embody it. The strongest leaders don't need to assert dominance. They inspire alignment. Their strength lies in their example, not their authority. In a world full of noise, silence, paired with integrity, becomes magnetic. When you act with integrity, consistency, and calm, people notice, even if you say nothing. You don't have to announce your values to lead, you just have to live them. Consistency builds trust more than charisma ever could. When people observe your actions aligning with your principles, especially when it's inconvenient or costly, they start to trust you. Not just as a person, but as a model. That calm, unshaken presence in chaotic situations, that's leadership. That's what people remember. It doesn't matter if you never claim a title. If you show up with integrity, people will follow your example. It's not about being perfect. It's about being authentic and accountable. Actions speak not just louder than words, but deeper. They stay with people. They inspire change far more effectively than commands. And they teach others how to carry themselves just by witnessing your posture. Your silence speaks volumes when your life aligns with your values. Leadership isn't about control. It's about inspiration through behavior. People often mistake leadership for control, influence for manipulation. But true leadership is never about overpowering others. It's about illuminating what's possible. When your words, actions, and values are in sync, you don't need to convince anyone of your authority. They feel it. They see it. And that congruence is rare enough in this world that it commands attention without needing to demand it. When you don't waver in your ethics, even when it costs you, you inspire. You become a benchmark, not of perfection, but of courage. And that courage is contagious. People are watching you more than they are listening to you. Your silent alignment may be the very thing that gives someone else the strength to stand firm in their own truth. People trust what they see more than what they hear. Become someone who leads not by command, but by quiet example. Anyone can talk about values. Anyone can post motivational quotes or give a compelling speech. But leadership isn't performance, it's embodiment. It's about doing the right thing when there's no audience, no praise, and no guarantee. When people see you act with integrity, even when it costs you status or convenience, they notice. They might not say it out loud, but they're watching, they're learning, and most importantly, they're believing. Because trust is built not through speeches, but through sustained, observable action. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. When you live what you preach, when your behavior teaches more than your words ever could, you become a leader people can count on. Not because you said so, but because you showed them. Let your presence do the talking. That's unshakable power. There is a type of presence that doesn't need explanation. It's not about being intimidating, it's about being grounded. When you carry yourself with quiet strength, when your actions reflect inner peace and moral clarity, people feel it. It doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, the quieter it is, the more powerful it becomes. This is the kind of leadership that doesn't need attention. It leaves a legacy. It's not about commanding the room. It's about anchoring it. When you become that presence, you stop needing to speak up just to be heard. You know who you are. You've already spoken through your choices, your demeanor, your energy, and that kind of influence. It echoes far beyond the room you're in. That's not temporary power. That's lasting impact. Why this matters, now more than ever. In a world filled with notifications, arguments, distractions, and endless noise, your silence is not a weakness, it's your weapon. These 5 principles are more than habits. They're a philosophy of living with peace, precision, and power. By embracing silence, mastering your emotions, being fully present, growing in solitude, and leading by example, you become resilient, unshaken, and respected. If this resonated with you, subscribe now. Your journey into deeper strength and inner mastery is just beginning. Speak less, reflect more, and let your actions echo louder than words ever could.